What's up, everyone out there? Welcome back to Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets. It's The Mix, powered by Mayo MediaNet here on YouTube, presented by Jock MKT, the daily fantasy app where we actually make money, and we're doing it all the time. Hip, hip, hooray. Download that app for free. Use the promo code MMN. They're going to match the first $100 for free. If it's free, it's for me. Well, it's been for us. Finally, getting in the groove, throwing our weight around the JM streets, being sharp, doing all the things that we do. Me and you, the Cork Stats crew. What's up, everybody? Rate, review, and subscribe to the audio-only pod. And in just a minute, hopefully after I've earned it, because I've been up for quite a while, I'm going to ask you for a cartoon finger. Press the YouTube like button because it matters just way more than it should. We have a ridiculous amount of work to do. I continue to pile on more and more stuff into this show. 5 pounds of shite in the 3-pound box. We're doing blue chip stocks using Run the Sims projections for the highest projected players at each position. Then we'll do our penny stock segment, just some value stuff, same projections, but from a cost per point analysis, adding in the IPOs and some application for Jock MKT for the main slate coming up on Sunday. And then I got a 6-pack of props. We're going to pick a pack of player props for you at the very, very end. But enough of that. We need more of this. The fastest show in NFL absolutely anywhere. With me, the one-man band, the big dude with the big mouth from the Big Apple, Big Johnny Stud, banging a bass drum, doing a harmonica, playing every instrument, in the orchestra. Let's get down and do the thing we do. Come on, everybody. It's your Blue Chips, brought to you by Jock MKT. Love that app so much. Again, we're doing very, very well. And I think this is now the preeminent Jock MKT show. Let's just dive right into it. Again, for the audio-only listeners, I do have all this stuff on a snazzy little graphic, just so you can see everybody next to each other. Sometimes visualizations help when there's so much information, right? So at the quarterback position, our top 5 quarterbacks as projected by Run the Sims. Get with them if you can. Love that stuff as well. Joe Burrow at the very, very top, 24.5, with a bit of a gap before we get into the rest of the quarterbacks. So Jackson, Lamar at 22. Mahomes, Patrick at 22, Brady and Herbert both at 21. So remember, we're not overreacting to single points. We then have to apply this stuff in Jock MKT. It's as much about the price as anything. Remember, you tie yourself. Every play is weighted individually, let's say. Whereas DraftKings is more leverage, ownership, correlation with players. Jock MKT, it's really about isolation and price finding. So right off the bat, if any of these players are coming in cheap, right, that's how you rank them in Jock MKT. That's really it. Just to give you an idea, I got some projection ownerships here. Burrow and Lamar up over 10, near 11. Herbert at 9. Mahomes and Brady down below 6. I think I really like Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's really good anytime you can get him. Also, Mahomes excellent against the zone, and San Francisco plays a ton of that. He leads the league in EPA per dropback on zone plays, as well as everything else. Mahomes is awesome. Shocker, 106 passer rating, .34 per attempt. That's also a league lead. Patrick Mahomes, very, very good. Tom Brady as well, and Justin Herbert going to get a little less ownership than Burrow and Jackson, although I do like Burrow and Jackson more. Jackson, of course, has the ability to pop the top. The whole world is on Joe Burrow because of that defensive matchup. Atlanta Falcons, very, very bad. 385 total yards per game, almost 6 yards per play. They will allow 39 yards per drive, more than 3 minutes time of possession per drive, and more than 75% drive success rate. How is this team any good? Well, they're not very good. They just play close. Again, they don't make mistakes, so I guess if that's something good in the NFL. But the pass defense has been terrible. 15% pass DVOA. They've only gotten 8 sacks for a 4% adjusted sack rate. All those are near the bottom of the board. Allowing 40 attempts, 28 completions for over 280 yards, 7 per attempt, more than 10 per completion. That's the Falcons. Again, their defense is keeping the offense off the field. So you think Burrow can light it up. They're starting to get going. Also, you notice Burrow took only 2 snaps on the center. Keep an eye on that. You can follow me on Twitter at John Laghezza. I've been covering that. I think that's the next pendulum shift that we're seeing is the 2. Let's just do it quick because this stuff matters. It's going to resonate throughout all of your football work. The influx of the 2 high shell, right, those deep coverages, has stunted the deep pass. Defense is basically saying we want the player furthest back so we don't get beat long. Okay, that makes sense. That kind of squished a lot of teams still trying to force their hand. Now they're realizing, well, you could try and go shorter. A couple of the smart guys at Underdog and the Athletic Pod talking about stunts happening up at the line of scrimmage, defensive line stunting around centers and confusing them, allowing for pressure. Now, if you're trying to go for deep passes and you're under pressure, what happens? You end up getting smushed. So there's the reason for the 10% drop in points, where we've seen teams now kind of shift. Like I said, that juke move has been Indianapolis and Cincinnati. Both of them went pure shotgun. The idea making sense. They're going to be able to work more short and intermediate reads because they can see the field. All right, that was definitely worth a like button. Go press the like button, pretty please, with sugar on top. All right, now let's do the running backs for these blue chips. It's Austin Eckler. Now remember, if you're seeing matches across the blue chips, right? So you connect Herbert to Eckler, you know they're going to be very, very popular. But again, in Jock Market, IPO stands above all. We don't know what the ownership's going to be in conventional DFS. We have to guess. Now, some of these programs are pretty good. Jock Market lets us know, right? So if Eckler is cheap, then you play him. And if Eckler is really, really expensive, then you don't. You know, so like, I just really kind of like Jock Market from that lens, where you could predetermine where you want to go. Maybe say Eckler, $6.50, $7, give him a chance for that 3.5 to 4 times pop. And other than that, you say, no, thank you. And then let's just do the running backs, because I don't want to, again, we have so much work to do. Eckler, Fournette, Jacobs, Barkley, and Hall. Again, really all, maybe not say worthwhile bidding, but they are worthwhile bidding because the projections are so close. Hall the lowest at 19.5, Eckler the highest at 22. In a PPR game, talking about a catch, for 10 yards. Right, so there's probably a pretty good example of why we're not trying to overreact to the, slight disparity in projections. You get into the usage, all these guys, extreme usage. Breece Hall now taking the majority of the rushes. I like to look back at like 2 or 3 weeks back. Breece Hall is 279 rush yards. Just in the past couple weeks, he's been amazing, getting 90% of the goal line snaps as well. So you can get with him, and he's getting targets, 14% of the team target share in that time span. So if he's the one that maybe you're thinking, oh, not so much because of the matchup. The Denver matchup is tough, but the way that the Jets are working around the line of scrimmage, he's going to get a ton of touches. Like right now, you got to think Breece Hall is set to get like 20-something touches, like at least 24 touches. So if he ends up IPOing or projecting low, that's a guy that I really like. And for the rest of these guys are awesome, right? Barkley and Jacobs, these guys are excellent. DraftKings, I think it becomes a ownership thing. In Jock Market, right, becomes an IPO thing. So I do have the ownerships here for the running backs. They're all at least 13. Josh Jacobs at 31%. So if you're going to take an obvious fade, you get away from Jacobs, maybe get a little bit of like Devontae Adams in that game, right? A good way to get away from chalk is to get another very good player in that same game. So I think that one jumps off the page. Josh Jacobs with the just ridiculous 31% ownership. He's going to be hard to get to. So I probably won't. But if he's IPO is below $8, then he's totally viable in Jock Market. And I think that's one of the reasons is a greater than sign for Jock Market over DraftKings. Into the wide receivers we go. Jamar Chase at the top. He exploded last time, so there's that connection I talk about. We have Burrow leading up the quarterbacks, Chase leading up the wide receivers, so everybody and their mom expecting the Bengals to throw on the Falcons. Maybe that's a spot we have to fade as much as I like them. To Michael Pittman, again, I mentioned the Colts going to that hyper use of the shotgun. Keep an eye on that. If that's the case, he's going to be a PPR absolute monster, right? So just don't be afraid. I mean, especially the Tennessee pass defense is also putrid right now. I got some cool stuff on them as always, right? You know how I roll. Pass defense for Tennessee, despicable. 18% pass DVOA. That's in the bottom 5, allowing 25 completions on 36 attempts per game. 287.6 passing yards per game. I believe that's worst in the league. 7.9 per attempt. Almost 12 per completion, 2.4 touchdowns allowed per game. Those are all firmly in the bottom 1 or bottom 2. So expect the Colts and the Pittman to get going. Again, I think I like all the Colts guys, especially in Jock Market if they're really cheap. Again, great spot to get paid. Cheap players in good spots that people are not really onto. And without, I think I've noticed this also, less popular players get less steam in Jock Market because of not having to tie them into these teams, right? So people going with Colt stacks, right, are drawing in Pierce. They're drawing in Ryan. Because Jock Market is individualized, I think you see less of that. There's less stacking because you feel less of a need to. Now, I'm not saying that you need to stack, but I am saying that it leaves a bit of a blind spot on, what do you want to call them? Fringy guys, right? So a guy like Pierce could have the really low IPO. We're going to love him in that case. Whereas if Pittman ends up above $9, it's easier to let him go. All right, tight ends, more familiar names. As always, it's Kelsey and Andrews. It's like a stamp. I don't think I've had to move that image in the past like 3 or 4 weeks, and then wrapped up with David Njoku. Although Kelsey at 19, Andrews 17, Njoku all the way down at 11. So, right now it's pay up for the big premium guys or not. Sorry, I got to back up. I went a little too fast, got ahead of myself. Sorry about that, everybody. With the wide receivers, let's wrap it up. That below Pittman was Deebo Samuel, who I think takes a knockdown now with CMC. Yeah, he's going to be hard to get to. Deebo's just going to be hard to make those ceiling projections. He's still a yak monster, and it's going to be fun in GPPs. But as far as Jock Market goes, or like cash games, DFS, I'm out. To Amon-Ra St. Brown, I want to see it first, and I don't think the matchup is good for them. They're facing Dallas. Yes, Amon-Ra is awesome. He's goated. And the Lions' offensive line is pretty good. But the Dallas defense is awesome. Like one of my top 2 or 3 defenses in the league. They will be focusing on Brown and with Diggs back there. So today's an easy day. I think let's just make sure Brown gets out of the game healthy. But it's a good spot because people are going to be piling on him. Let them have it. Awesome stuff. Love that. And then T. Higgins, the triple connection. Gosh, we're going to have to hold our nose and fade the Bengals in DFS, I think, which is really, really tough when you see these projections. Higgins and Chase, both above 19, Burrow at 24 and a half. You can see how the math would get there with the Falcons, unless, of course, they're just able to keep it close and sit on the ball, like I mentioned. And that would just keep maybe the Bengals to 24, with this super stack you have to pay all the way up for doesn't get there. So I think, it's not just a pure everyone's on it, so I'm off it. There are pathways where the Bengals just don't smash, so I'm having trouble seeing it. I'm not really buying what the Falcons are selling. All right, so that's our blue chip section presented by Jock Market. Hope you enjoyed that. Remember, let's do it just really quick. I think it's, because I speak so fast, I think sometimes it's important we go back. So I really do like Burrow, but I'm going to let it go. You got to like Jackson if he's low owned because of the ability to run. I want to see if Bateman's playing. I think Bateman is a huge boon for the Ravens. I really do. Mahomes is my guy here. Anytime the Chiefs are being unsold, spoiler, I'm betting on the Chiefs this weekend. Anytime the Chiefs are being unsold, they're coming in cheap, on their own. Just give me the Chiefs. They're awesome. They find a way to do it. Mahomes is probably the best quarterback in the world right now. The running backs, I think it's Hall, man. I hope there's not a Jets homerisms. I think it's Hall just because I think the ownership will be the lowest. If not, I like Barkley. As much as I like Jacobs, I'm going to get away from the ownership. Wide receivers, I do really like Pittman for the underneath stuff, but I'll be keeping an IPO on the other Colts wide receivers. And then it's probably Higgins. Because of the similar projection to Chase, the price is much lower, so is the ownership. So give me Higgins, wide out blue chip, and then tight end. I guess it's always Andrews. Doesn't really matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It's Kelsey, it's Andrews, all these guys. It's however you can get exposed to these guys. I was trying to get a share of them in Jock Market because they seem to always profit on a main slate, at least, right? Showdown, the price go crazy. All right, so there's a bit of everything. Rate, review, and subscribe to the audio only pod. The ball is now across the 50. Let's get it up into the red zone with the penny stock segment. But first, let me just take a quick breath. This ain't easy. I'm back. It's the penny stock segment brought to you by Jock Market. Download the app. Absolutely love it. Remember, this is where we're going to make your bones. If you're afraid of playing Jock Market, now is the time to play. These are the times to play. Is the main slate, in particular, as people are starting to take their attention away from football. It's just natural. Everyone's all excited. Now players are hurt and some games stink. And a lot of teams stink. People are disappointed. Their fantasy teams are out and they get away from it. Also, we have people using season-long stats, which are very misleading because of injuries creating usage spikes. So the pathway is open for edge on these main slates for new players in Jock Market. My best advice is get the promo cash and play the cheap players on this list. Like, there's the cheat code. We're always looking for the next thing and how to break it all. And doing this kind of cost-per-point analysis is a very good way to get ahead in Jock Market. I've done very well myself on it. But if you're new, you really got to worry about not losing. And I think the $100 is more than enough. Let's just dive into it. You'll see exactly what I mean. Also, if you've been following the show, thank you so much. I really do appreciate the people that have been here from the beginning and following through the weekends. I know it's a lot. It's a lot. And like I said, I appreciate it and put the work in to hope that you see that. So what we've noticed, and I think it's for sure from baseball as well, when a player rings on the top totals and also rings on the values. You really got to give it a second look if you were thinking about fading it. And there goes Joe Burrow, 24.5-point projection at the very top, which we saw. The 6.9 salary is very low, giving us a $281 cost per point. Remember, we always want to have our eye on $250 because at $250, that's a median projection for 200 DraftKings points. Wowza. Keep that in mind. Remember, just because something is cheap doesn't mean it's value, and just because something is expensive doesn't mean it's not. So Burrow is getting the ownership, but at 10%, maybe it's enough to just say, you know what, man, don't be too cute with ownership. Get your differentiation elsewhere. Or if you're a multi-entry player, even if it's not 150, let's say you're a 5, 6, 10 entry player, get Burrow in. So I know I talk through these things to help people see the methodology behind it, because I think that's also very important, right? So you could kind of do this stuff on your own. It's also important to be malleable, and as more and more data is coming in to say, oh, I don't know. So, and here's a better example of how we differentiate. So on the right, you'll see again the preeminent Jock Market show. Nobody doing like this, combining all the different types of platform information. It can't be found. You have to go and mine it and scrape it and add it, and that's why no one does it, because it's hard work, something I'm certainly not afraid of. So Burrow, with the 10% ownership, which I mentioned in DFS, is viable for a piece of your portfolio. If the IPO is at 9.35, and I do find for very good players, these are a bit on the low end. If Burrow gets there $10, I'm going to say nay, and the reason is simple. It's a 200-player slate. The top share returns $25. You're only giving yourself a chance for a 2.5 times return to be the best out of 200. And there, I'm not going to get to, but we get to cost per point in DraftKings. That's where you open the door. So if you really want Burrow, I think you get to it in DraftKings, not so much IPO. Although, listen, Jock Market, these are just projections. We don't know where it's going to end up. If Joe Burrow ends up at $8 or below, then you go get him in Jock Market, right? So that's why another greater than sign for Jock Market. You have to be sharp. You have to know where your own kind of parameters are. All right, then it's Tom Brady, 21 points, 6.3 salary for the sub 300 cost per point, 6% ownership, 775 IPO. That kind of rings a lot more boxes. Carolina defense is okay, but they're just surrendering right now. And I think when you lose a locker room, I think it's a wrap, right? So with the coach and now star players leaving, you could see this one just getting to like 35-0. But Brady's got to be pissed because they got upset by the Steelers. That game was a joke. So I think Brady and the Bucs bounce back. I like Brady, especially to Godwin. Spoiler alert, he's coming up in a bit. But let's do the running backs first. Josh Jacobs, 21 points, 6.5, 308.31 slash. How about that, baby? You know, if you speak in that language, then you're hanging with us. But at 6.5 DK bucks, keeping your cost per point near 300, again, why we like the main slate so much and why I recommend it so highly to new players, because the dollars go a lot further, right? You have to pay up almost triple for a player share in a showdown, and a lot of times the player is not nearly as good. So because of the wide field that I mentioned, we're looking for the cracks in the armor. So if Josh Jacobs, who's the 31% ownership, is not viable for DFS, so this is the flip side of Burrow, again, feather in the cap, application to the 4, context and nuances pouring out your nose, right? So Burrow, you let the ownership, because it's at 10 and comparable, get into DFS contest and away from the IPO because it's too high. Josh Jacobs, the 31% ownership is too high. You let that go in DFS. The 705 IPO is beautiful. That's where you get to it. So that's why I'd like to have access to multiple platforms, because it's not as easy as I like Josh Jacobs. That is low IQ analysis. You have to go a bit further. That is how we do the thing that we do. Boom. I don't know I could do it any better. If that didn't earn a like button, I'm never going to earn it from you, so maybe I should just stop asking. Breece Hall, who I mentioned, has this similar projection to Josh Jacobs, but his IPO is at 5.5. Oh my goodness. You know, if you're going to save 50% of the share, that's where you go for the IPO. Love Breece Hall. People are afraid of the Denver matchup. His IPO might fall short of 550. Give me all the Hall. Dameon Pierce, 19-point projection as well, 6.4, 335 cost per point. Ownership at 16, similar to Hall, but his IPO is even lower. So here's another great lesson if you're playing Jock Market, is you can't allow the DraftKings crowd, because that's a lot of the analysis we hear, to influence you. You have to go kind of dig through the IPOs. My best suggestion, because it's very difficult to dig through 200 players, especially as they're moving when you get closer to game time. You can tell I play this stuff, thank you. Is use the favorites. You know, I wouldn't say you can't place bids early. I don't know how advantageous it is. What you should be doing is checking all the people on this list. And then that way you're not worried about the big list, you're worried about a smaller list, and you could monitor these guys because you may get back, because this does happen, you may circle back sometimes and say, well, how is Dameon Pierce 450? And that's what you want to get, right? You may have said, oh man, everyone's going to be on Dameon Pierce. What if Josh Jacobs falls short of $7? You want a piece of that. You don't want to just automatically write it off. So use the favorite stuff and then go from there. So Jacobs, Hall, and Pierce, all really good plays. But again, it depends which board we're going to put that piece on. Let's do the wide receivers quick. I got to get some giddy up in this game, or extend it. So I got Garrett Wilson here. That's where I'm going to get away from. I'm not into that. So Moore is not playing. I challenged Patrick Surtain with Mike Williams. Garrett Wilson is not nearly the player, and near is Wilson, the quarterback. So get away from that. Even if the course point says so, I'm going to say nay. I may go with Zay. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. I guess I've been a Zay Jones truther. Things I didn't know I'd be saying. But it has more to do with the IPO. So here's another player where I'm not really too interested in DraftKings. The 4.4 salary, 12-point projection, not great. $350, good but not great. 6% ownership, good but not great. The 274 IPO, that's where I want to be, right? That's the thing that we want to dig our teeth into. Jones has been good. He has missed some time, but he is responsible for a large part of the usage there. 76% route per dropback, 80% of snaps, 166 routes. He's earned 37 targets, 19% of the team target share, 18% of their air yards, and they mix them up wide and in the slot. So sometimes, as stinky as it can be, that's kind of how you're going to get the edge in jock market, is finding the guys at the very, very bottom that are actually getting, getting love. So I know it's not like the most beautiful play. You might absolutely love that one. Why am I struggling so hard for Jones? Oh yeah, because he's missed games. Sorry. So that's why I was trying to get the totals. It can be hard to mix that stuff. So Zay Jones' idea sticks though. Heavy usage at a sub $3 IPO is awesome. Something I also like to do, again, you can tell I actually play this game, is when we get down to the IPOs, search by price and just make sure that no one we mentioned or no one that you really like is really, really cheap. Because sometimes player shares are going off for less than $1, and they have a chance to go 6, 7, 800%. Again, that's why we want to focus on the main slate YAA. I recommend people demo play the showdowns, but I get live for these main slates. Just ignore everybody over $6. If you're worried about losing, you lose their money, don't lose your money, right? That's smart. You can tell I care. I really do. Then it's Higgins. I'm combining Higgins and Godwin. I'm in a rush. Higgins, Godwin, and Cooper. These you can all do at the same time. The reason why Cooper stands out is the IPO. So Higgins, Godwin, and Cooper all with very similar projections between 16 and 18 again. In a PPR world, that's just nothing not worth overreacting to. The salaries are all within $300 DK. That's the difference in the defense. That's negligible. So the cost per points are all really good. What does that tell you? Think about this group in particular for DFS, because the ownerships are all at 14 or below. That's all viable. And if you're going to get that low cost per point with very good players, right? So again, sometimes good players fall through the cracks because of narratives, matchups, and the like. I think that's a very good way. I mentioned it before. A very good way to get different in a strong suit, right? A strong way to do it is stick with good players that just are not popular at the time, rather than trying to pick the next bad player. And I know I mentioned Zay Jones, he's not a good player, but a $3 IPO, I'll wear that one. When you get over 550, like we're expecting for Godwin and Higgins, you got to have good players, but they're very good players. So if Higgins IPO is at 613, I think Higgins is one of the few guys I like in both DraftKings, DFS conventional, and jock market. So right pieces on the board. Amari Cooper, smash it. I'd probably I may even get away from it for DFS because I might be so exposed in jock market if his IPO comes in below $4. Cooper's usage has been just off the charts. 88% of dropbacks he runs a route, leading the team. 82% of snaps, 200 routes so far, earned 55 targets. These are all the team lead. 28% team target share, 35.5% of the team air yards, 28% target per route run, almost 2 yards per route run, 11 air yards per target. I mean, it's everything you want. Again, I have swung and missed on Cooper this year and his props. and it's frustrating, but you can't let that stuff get you, because if you aim at a prop and you miss, but the guy gets 12 targets, I try not to. It's a loss. It costs your money, but you obviously had something going on there. So those are all the stuff and things. Let's just wrap it up really quick. Cade Otton is the tight end. Love Otton. He's gotten some elite usage. 9-point projection, only 2.7 thousand salary. It's going to be Otton versus Dulcich, right, in the DraftKings streets, but why we love Jock Market so much is, like King Solomon style, we won't have to decide. So give me Otton and give me Dulcich in Jock Market. Dulcich paid the bills in the showdown. I told you I had 20 shares of him. That was excellent. So Otton bringing in that 300 cost per point to 5% ownership, which I really like. The 450 IPO is a bit of I wish it was a little bit lower. In fact, wouldn't you rather have Amari Cooper than Cade Otton for a 10% discount? The answer is probably yes. So keep it on the Otton IPO. Same for Dulcich. If those guys go over $5, I'm not interested, right? So again, knowing when to pull the plug, when to hit that eject button, and boom, that's the penny stock section. Rate, review, and subscribe. So again, just a quick recap. I think you gotta like Burrow no matter what. I think we're going with Jacobs in Jock Market instead of DFS. Give me Hall on both platforms. Give me Pierce in Jock Market. Fading Garrett Wilson. Give me Zay Jones in Jock Market. Higgins across the board. Godwin in DraftKings. Cooper across the board. And Otton is going to be more price dependent in JM. Boom. Okay, we are up in the side the 10. Let's score the rock, but let me just take a quick breath first. All right, here we go. It is week 7. Sim the props. Switch it up a little bit. I like to respond to listener feedback. I really do mean that. Get up in the comments. Wait, after you rate, review, and subscribe, you can hit me up on Twitter. Tag us on Twitter. Tag Pat on Twitter. Tag the network on Twitter. Just hit us up, man. We want to hear from you. And like I said, I will respond. I have had people ask for more props. Why? We have a whole slate. And I was just kind of giving one, just because I didn't want to overdo it. Like, that's really at the core of it, is I don't want people to overstand and get themselves in trouble. So let me preface it with this. More bets doesn't have to mean more risk. If you were risking $50, you could still risk the same $50. You're risking $100 and across the board. So please, please, please don't take this as we're going nuts. That's not what this is. In fact, my style is quite the opposite. And probably one of the lessons I need to learn is to open my own ticket a little bit. Expand my own ticket and give myself more chances. Because no matter how sharp you think you are, how good you think you are at handicapping, when you isolate a weekend, a day, a night, a slate, whatever, to a single bet, it's become very binary. You hit it and you win, you lose it and you don't. Right? And 100% loss is not necessarily what we're looking for. I think, the more I verbalize it, the more I try and see it, I think that makes a little bit more sense. So if you're into more of this stuff, I'm going to expand on these a bit more when the alt props comes out. I post them on Twitter and on Patreon, but it's Patreon's free for now. John Laghezza, MLB, NFL moving averages, all the same stuff. It's streamed on Twitter, whatever. If you're a true degenerate and you're into NFL betting, I have the CLV model as well. All right, let's do the pickup. We're going to pick a player props. For the audio-only listeners, I've kept you in suspense long enough. Hop on over to YouTube and grab a screenshot for the lot of them. I'll walk you through them. We've covered most everybody already, which, again, makes a lot of sense. So, but these are per Run the Sims, right? So, I mean, rather than, and we kind of, I don't want to say handicap it, guessing, whatever. I run the program, compared it to the props, look for the biggest outliers. Right, so these are your biggest outliers per Run the Sims. That's why we are simming the props. It's Saquon Barkley over 76.5 rushing yards. These are all the image says minus 115, but I saw minus 112, minus 118. Just call it minus 115. Average. Barkley over 76.5 rushing yards. They do have Jacksonville, whose rush D has been pretty good. But the way the Giants are using them, and to the extent that they are, with the ability to hit the home run, I don't think they're going to give up. The game script, the line, everything says Barkley getting fed, and again, the projections just have them at least. I think everyone's at least 10 yards over, if it made it here. Then next up, Josh Jacobs, the smashest of smash spots. Everybody and their madre going to be on him. The Houston Texan run D is terrible. 11% rush DVOA. They're allowing over 164 yards per game on over 32 attempts. That's 4.75 line yards, more than 5 running back yards per attempt. That's going to get you in a lot of trouble. So Jacobs over 81.5. Damian Pierce in that same game, his is at 67.5. He is just absolutely dominating all types of touches and carries. Remember, I ran the last 3 weeks. Usage, 91% of the team rushes. Yeah, how's that sound? 0.14 EPA per rush is near the top of the board. Almost 5 yards after contact per rush. Wow, 115 yards per game, and he's getting the goal line snaps. Damian Pierce should go way over 68. The Texans are going to try and keep the Raiders' offense off the field, so expect them to run, especially up front. And then all the wide receivers, kind of we mentioned before, it's Pittman for the Colts at 68.5. Cooper for the Browns at 55.5. Nice low bar there. And then CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys at 73.5. Again, I mean, a lot of these caps would sound very similar, right? We're talking about high usage guys. Who did we talk about? We didn't talk about CeeDee Lamb. So here, CeeDee Lamb, this is year to date. 99% of dropbacks, he runs a route. That's pretty good. 95% of snaps, nearly 200 routes, earning 60 targets. These are all team leads by a mile and a half. 33 receptions for 409 yards. 33% of the team targets. 39.5% of the team air yards. 31% target per route run. 2.12 yards per route run. That is near the top of the league lead. And they actually mix him up. He has more than 40% of his snaps in the slot. So it's a really good spot for our really good players. I'm always into that, right? We want to see mixed usage in case they wind themselves up in like a bad matchup or just some like schematic problems or there's a fault on the line that ends up hurting that side of the field. Remember, there's a lot of moving pieces. That's why football's so hard to predict. Again, we're always kind of trying to punch the counter punch. We know the Lions' pass D is just flat out bad. 24% pass DVOA. I think that might be worst in the league. Allowed more than 261 yards per game, almost 12 yards per completion, and Lamb getting all the usage stats. So the six-pack, again, quick wrap-up. It's Barkley needs 77. Jacobs needs 82. And Pierce needs 68. Those are on the ground. Pittman needs 69. Nice. Cooper needs 56. And Lamb needs 74. Those are through the air. Something else, excuse me. Sorry about that. Something else before we get out of here really quick that someone sharp mentioned me, which I do get because they'd mentioned going with bigger tickets and then thinking about juice and how much you have to bet in order to break even, right? And the six-pack, you might want to kind of do the math on this and just run round robins of 3 or 4. I'm going to have to do the math myself. But there's probably a fine-tune, you could probably fine-tune the dials where you could make this a bit simpler instead of all 6 and open up the pathway for like the big smash in case we do, hit, like if you hit 4, if you have a round robin set for 4 out of 6, you're going to cash at 4 out of 6, right? You got to do the math, but you will cash 4 out of 6. But that would also open up the pathway if you hit the 5 or 6 for the big pay, opposed to if you bet 6 singles and hit, 3 of them, you actually lose. Right, so if you hit 4 of them, it's going to be close. You need 5 out of 6 anyway, right? So if you need 5 out of 6 to bang them straight, this is the thinking, right? If you need 5 out of 6 to hit profit straight, you might as well go 4 out of 6 if you can get to 4 out of 6 for a round robin. So there's just a little bit of thinking. Again, play with the dials, be malleable, but just remember, number one thing, more betting doesn't mean more risking. In this age of fractional betting where you could kind of bet like cents on stuff, that's how I started. I literally started from 0, betting the minimums. Earning percentages. Same thing I did for Jock Market. Took a $20 free promo. It's up into the thousands. Just doing the same thing. I know it's very hard. No one wants to start from the beginning, but that's how you do it. You start slow, you start smart, and you make your way up, clicking up the mountain like the climber in Price is Right. And that will do it. Once I'm yodeling, the show is officially off the rails. Thank you so much for picking up what we're putting down here at Mayo Media Net. Rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Rate, review, and subscribe to the audio-only pod. If you really thought the show was awesome, 5-star review is the compliment of all compliments. But I will take a like button because if you like the show and the free info that we're putting out there, that's the best way to say thanks in this world that we live in. To press a cartoon finger, stick it right up inside me. And I think that is it. Man, is there another show with more stoof, more of the stuff? I don't know. If there is, let me know, and I will turn up the dial once again. All right, that will add this time. We're getting out of here. enjoy the games, enjoy your day, and when we are done with the book, enjoy that pay, man. Make sure you download that Jock Market app, get on a free cash, and get the penny stock, guys. People are doing it. I'm seeing the green screens. I absolutely love it. I'm telling you, there's edge in Jock Market that can't be found in those 19 parlays. So remember, when you work this hard, man, it feels a lot less like luck, yo. Enjoy the weekend. Peace.